Good morning, good night, good evening, good afternoon. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining. So, A Voice from Heaven is the title of this meeting. It's chapter 18, still the last paragraph of the last section of the chapter. And then we head over to chapter 19. Beyond the Body is the title of 19, and today's the passing of the dream. And so that's an interesting idea. It's like, okay, yeah, suddenly we're aware that we're dreaming a dream. Whether that's a nightmare or a happy dream, you're dreaming a dream. And it's not only at night that you're dreaming, but also in the daytime. Can you imagine? It's like, that's your dream. And, well, there's an end to that. The dream is going to pass. So is that what death is? Is that what you think death is? Well, we're going to find out today. Like, what is the passing of the dream? Like, what is actually the nature of this dream? It's illusory, it's temporary, so it cannot be real, really, but yeah. So we're undergoing a process in which we're going to discover that the dream is over. So when are we going to discover that? That's the question, right? So this is all like openings or invitations to come and discover with us what is actually given in this chapter. Now, I can just read it to you, and I can just say some words about it, but then we would miss completely what is actually being offered. So that's why we always do this different, but today I'm going to say, help you could say, to relax or to release your mind, to release your need to do something with your thoughts, to follow up on them or to value them or all these kind of things. So what I'm going to use is a part from the review of the first 50 lessons to shake that loose, you could say, to shake that in a way that it's like, oh yeah, oh no, that doesn't make sense, no, right, no. Because it is just a matter of, it is so great to hear this with an open consciousness, to discover beyond your scope, know that something new can come to you and completely fresh, being received as a fresh inspiration. That is so much better than trying to knit a fabric of understanding and concepts to do the same thing over and over again. So this is really to break that, to shake that loose, to shake your grip loose from any time-related matters. And that's exactly what we're doing with some of the review lessons that I'm going to read to you. So I hope you can read it too. I'm starting at 10. Now, where is that? Well, actually, we start maybe where we left off last time. I see only the past. So now my mind is preoccupied with past thoughts. See, I was already talking about the last time. So it's like my mind's preoccupied with past thoughts. I see only my own thoughts, and my mind is preoccupied with the past. What then can I see as it is? No, nothing, right? Let me remember that I look on the past. And why do I do that? To prevent the present from dawning on my mind. I must have a reason for that. Let me understand that I'm trying to use time against God. Well, there's the reason. Let me learn to give the past away, realizing that in so doing I'm giving up nothing. Now this is huge and so incredibly useful today. My mind is preoccupied with past thoughts. I see only my own thoughts. That's impossible to see something else because it is a representation of your thoughts, what you see. My mind is preoccupied with the past. What then can I see as it is? Let me remember that I look on the past to prevent the present from dawning on my mind. And let me understand that I'm trying to use time against God. Let me learn to give the past away, realizing that in so doing, I'm giving up nothing, literally. I see nothing as it is now. If I see nothing as it is now, it can truly be said that I see nothing. I can see only what is now. The choice is not whether to see the past or the present, it is merely whether to see or not. What I have chosen to see has cost me vision. Now I would choose again that I may see. My thoughts do not mean anything. I have no private thoughts. Yet it is only private thoughts of which I am aware. What can these thoughts mean? They do not exist, and so they have no meaning. Yet my mind is part of creation and part of its creator. Would I not rather join the thinking of the universe than to obscure all that is really mine with my pitiful and meaningless thoughts, private thoughts? My meaningless thoughts are showing me a meaningless world. Since the thoughts of which I am aware do not mean anything, the world which pictures them can have no meaning. What is producing this world is insane, and so is what it produces, right? Reality is not insane. I have real thoughts as well as insane ones. I can therefore see a real world if I look to my real thoughts as my guides for seeing. I am upset because I see a meaningless world. Insane thoughts are upsetting, and they produce a world in which there is no order anywhere. Only chaos rules a world which represents chaotic thinking, and chaos has no laws. I cannot live in peace in such a world. I'm grateful that this world is not real, and that I need not see it at all unless I choose to value it. And I do not choose to value what is totally insane and has no meaning. I always love to read this because it's so aligning. It's amazing. So thank you for all the tools that we temporarily have, as long as the dream lasts, until it's gone forever. And we'll see what happens then, right? Now here we start with the passing of the dream. I'm pulling up some of my, say, the prepared sheets and start reading you a couple. See what happens. The passing of the dream. That's the title in the Urtext. So in the blue book it is probably already chapter 19, but I'm not sure. Here we are. This course will lead to knowledge, but knowledge itself is still beyond the scope of our curriculum here. Nor is there any need for us to try to speak of what must forever lie beyond words. We need remember only that whoever attains the real world, beyond which learning cannot go, will go beyond it, but in a different way. Where learning ends, there God begins. For learning ends before him who is complete, where he begins and where there is no end. So that is quite a mysterious expression, isn't it? It's quite mystical. I'm gonna read it again. This course will lead to knowledge, like it will lead to knowledge, but knowledge itself is still beyond the scope of our curriculum, like knowledge itself is beyond learning. Nor is there any need for us to try to speak of what must forever lie beyond words. We need remember only that whoever attains the real world, beyond which learning cannot go, will go beyond it, but in a different way. Where learning ends, there God begins. For learning ends before him who is complete, where he begins and where there is no end. Now, we need to remember only that whoever attains the real world, beyond which learning cannot go, will go beyond it. Now, this is an interesting expression. So I'm going to pick that out to continue a little bit, elaborate if you want. Elaborate a bit about it. So what is the real world? And you see in the Course all kinds of expressions about it. So what is the real world? Well, if you can see it like this, it's like your true perception. For instance, well, let's give an example. I'm looking at you and see somebody who's so many years old, this kind of body shape, this kind of gender, this kind of, you know it, like skin color, who knows what. That's a typical three-dimensional way of looking at someone, right? So is this person in the real world? Not as I see him, right? If I see him as a three-dimensional object, you could say, then it is not the real world. So it is a world of limitation, of objective reality, say defined by my limited perspective. Now, this limited perspective is in fact changing when you start doing these exercises, when you start coming into your spiritual path and having different experiences. Suddenly there's light, suddenly there's an experience of love, and all this that is going on, that is happening continuously in our development to the reality of who we are, we say. Now, when I look at you, when I say forget about any kind of definition of you, so what happens then is in fact I start to recognize myself, the love which I recognize myself to be too. Like I'm open, I've no defenses, I've no objections, I've no definitions. No, I actually see beyond the form. I see beyond the form and start to recognize that we come from a same source. So it's still in the dream, right? So like it's still in the dream. It's still a temporary phase. I recognize you as an incredible representation of the love of God. My brother. I call you my brother. Well, where am I seeing you? Do I see you here in this three-dimensional definition of myself? No. Do I see you beyond this form? Yes. Is that the real world? Yes. So it's like, finally, I recognize you to be the truth that you are. Like I can relate to you and communicate with you, recognizing that we're of one mind, recognizing that the love of God represents you and me because we share a common source. You know, this is an experience already, but it's also a recognition, and it's also temporary to experience it like this. Now, this is really good to know. So that's the real world. The real world, you will also move further than the real world, it says here too. So this is exactly the part that we're talking about today. So there's a dream, there's in the dream a moment of recognition of the love that your brother is. In fact, you have a moment of forgiveness, and suddenly you literally fall in love with your brother. You feel such deep love in the recognition of a shared source that it becomes totally lovely, and nothing can object that. Like it is one in itself already. It's like you, but still in a temporary borderland where that happens, you could say. So this is good to know, because I know that I've been wondering what is the real world, and this is actually how that can be shared. You know how this is. So it's beyond the form, the world beyond the form. Is that existing in this moment? Yeah, in our experience of each other, yes, it definitely is. Like that is happening in this instant. So it's not the end phase, you could say. It's not the end of no. But it's a great step forward because you go beyond the form. So you don't let the limitations be imposed on your idea of yourself. Well, that's a great step forward. Yeah, we got this one. This course will lead to knowledge. Yeah, so knowledge is beyond learning. Knowledge is knowing, is just knowing, in the realm of knowing. It is not for us to dwell on what cannot be attained. Like knowing is not, it is not necessary to dwell on that. There's too much to learn. So it's like we're not going to focus on knowing, of knowledge. Now we're going to do the things that actually can be learned in this part of the curriculum. The readiness for knowledge still must be attained. So this is like, okay, so apparently there's a way to come to a readiness to receive this knowledge. Now here you have it. Love is not learned. Its meaning lies in itself. And learning ends when you have recognized all it is not. And learning ends when you have recognized all it is not. All that love is not. Love is not learned. And this is already so lovely. Love is not learned. Its meaning lies in itself. And learning ends when you have recognized all that love is not. See, this is the discovery you're making. What is not love? That is not love, that is not love, that is not love. No, that's interference. And that's that part that needs to be undone. Now this needs to happen first. In order to come to knowledge, you could say. This is in fact where learning ends, if you recognize what is love, and certainly what is not love. Like love cannot be learned, that's what you are. I hear it is like you recognize all that it is not. All that is interfering. That is what needs to be undone. Love is not learned because there never was a time in which you knew it not. Learning is useless in the presence of your Creator, whose acknowledgement of you and yours of Him so far transcends all learning that everything you learned is meaningless, replaced forever by the knowledge of love and its one meaning. Wow, how delicious is this to read this. So great. So love is not learned because there never was a time in which you knew it not. Learning is useless in the presence of your Creator, of course, whose acknowledgement of you and yours of Him so far transcends all learning that everything you learned is meaningless, replaced forever by the knowledge of love and its one meaning. It's very attractive, isn't it? Your relationship has been uprooted from the world of shadows, and its unholy purpose has been safely brought through the barriers of guilt, washed with forgiveness, and set shining and firmly rooted in the world of light. From there, it calls to you to follow the course it took, lifted high above the darkness and gently placed before the gates of heaven. Wow, is that a bright idea? You can feel this, right? You can feel this in your system, you could say, in your spiritual eye, in your in your crown. You could breathe this light. Your relationship has been uprooted from the world of shadows, and its unholy purpose has been safely brought through the barriers of guilt, washed with forgiveness, and set shining and firmly rooted in the world of light. From there it calls you to follow the course it took lifted high above the darkness and gently placed before the gates of heaven. The holy instant in which you were united is but a messenger of love, sent from beyond forgiveness to remind you of all that lies beyond it. Yet it is through forgiveness that it will be remembered. The holy instant in which you were united is but a messenger of love, sent from beyond forgiveness to remind you of all that lies beyond it. Yet it is through forgiveness that it will be remembered. And when the memory of God has come to you in the holy place of forgiveness, you will remember nothing else. Here it is. And the memory will be as useless as learning, for your only purpose will be creating. Yet this you cannot know until every perception has been cleansed and purified, and finally removed forever. Are you in that process? Oh yes. That is happening right now. When the memory of God has come to you in the holy place of forgiveness, you will remember nothing else, and memory will be as useless as learning. For your only purpose will be creating. Yet this you cannot know until every perception has been cleansed and purified, and finally removed forever. And when... oh wait, we just had this. Forgiveness removes only... this is good to know. Forgiveness removes only the untrue, lifting the shadows from the world and carrying it safe and sure within its gentleness to the bright world of new and clean perception. There is your purpose now, and it is there that peace awaits you. So forgiveness removes only the untrue. It is not forgiving something that somebody did to you. No, recognizing that nobody can do anything to you because it's all you. It was just a mistake that happened. A mistake in your dream. In your dream. So you take responsibility for it and see it for what it is and let it dissolve. Come to a forgetting. Forgiveness removes only the untrue, lifting the shadows from the world and carrying it. See, lifting the shadows from the world. It was just a mistake. No, nobody didn't do anything to you. No, nobody was attacking you. No, nobody, you didn't need to defend yourself. No. Nothing happened. Really, nothing happened. It was just a mistake. And it's corrected. Carrying it safe and sure within its gentleness to the bright world of new and clean perception. There is your purpose now, and it is there that peace awaits you. See where that is? Oh, it's so lovely. So this is the end of the chapter. This was literally the whole section, passing of the dream. So now you see, like, okay, so how does this dream pass then? Well, see, you have your curriculum here, your learning trajectory is like you learn things. You learn, for instance, what love is not. You start to see that what love is not. You're going to find out all of aspects of that. And then suddenly there's a possibility to enter into a realm of knowledge that has nothing to do with perception or any kind of memory that you ever hold. Like it has nothing to do with learning any longer. No, it's literally you enter into the realm of knowledge. So this is in fact where the dream passes, where the dream is over. You awaken fully into, say, the knowledge that represents the peace of God. And you recognize that in fact you are love itself. Like all things come together. This is always with oneness, of course. It's like all things come together. Suddenly it is all whole. It is whole and perfect. So your main function is not creating any longer, is not learning any longer, but creating. And what is creating then? Is that making something nice or beautiful? It's like, no. It's actually allowing the principle of life to flow through you in itself. So you cannot imagine it, for sure not. So all creations of light are real. You can say that. It's like all creations of light are real. And what is light? Light is love. What is love? Love is everything there is. Does that have anything to do with an idea I hold about what love is? No, it doesn't. Love cannot be learned. Love is, you could say. Love is God. God is. And then we cease to speak. We stop. We have no words anymore. We don't know what to do with that. We cannot do anything with that. It simply is. All right, so you saw also a description of the holy instant. It's like this is your temporal remembrance, the holy instant. It's like here actually there was a moment in which you recognized your source. In this holy instant you have no doubt about what your source is. Now this holy instant is something that we can learn to come into, you could say, to come to it, opening up for it so it can happen, and you can also expand it. Now this is exactly what we're going to listen to, expanding the holy instant with Master Teacher. It's like expanding the holy instant, in fact making it last by letting it be now. Yeah, that's also very mystical. So let's listen to it and see what happens.
Face of the earth that can solve my problem for me but myself. I am doing this but to myself. No matter how tempted I am to believe that there is something out there that is causing this to happen to me, let me let go and see that I am the cause of this. Because if I am the cause of this, then I can be the solution. And if I am not the cause of this, I'm in a lot of problems. I'm going to have to attempt to sacrifice to something outside of me, to arbitrate, to go through quid pro quo, to demand reciprocity in association with idolatry thought forms that I've constructed outside of myself to mitigate the impossible problem in which I find myself. I'm flowing a little bit here. I want you to try to get a hold of what the impossibleness of this. Now, that's lesson 79 of the Course. Isn't that lovely? Then lesson 80 is let me recognize the problem has been solved. Wow, that's nice. We won't do that one though, because that's not on our list. But that's coming along. You go to bed. You'd be real good. And tomorrow we'll do lesson. No, we must do 2 more lessons here. This lesson, I'm anxious to see what this one is. I think it's a good one. Oh wow, is this lovely? This is lesson 158. Today I learned to give as I receive. Sometimes the titles to the workbook lessons won't particularly pertain to the workbook, as you may have discovered. Never mind your perceptual. Listen to what this lesson says, because this is, sure enough, this is what we've been talking about this morning. Okay. It's going to tell you that this is the time that you chose. But you didn't know you choose this time until you chose it. And when you chose it, it had always been chosen. Do you know that's what this lesson says? I'm going to tell you that way when I read it, you'll hear it a little better. Okay? The time has already been set, but you don't know it's been set until you choose to set it, and then it's always been set. Everybody got that? All right. Why? Because it's already all over. And you say, well, I'm changing it. And I say, no, you're not. You're just it's all in the fabric anyway. Okay? Isn't that fun? Now, you have total free will to do what's already been done. And you say, well, that's not free will. And I say, oh, yes, it is. Isn't that funny? Now you're caught between your determinism, and this is a great theological discussion. You're caught between your absolute predestination, which is your Presbyterian determinism, which everything has already happened, confronted by your determination to be what? To be free and assert yourself. Okay? Now I'm going to give you total freedom by the acknowledgement that everything has already been determined, but perceptual mind doesn't like that very well. It's going to attempt to do something within the linear condition of time that it hasn't already done, but it's impossible that it do that. Okay? Feel good about that, not bad, though. You're tempted to do something that's never been thought of before. This is Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead. It's a play, if you ever want to read it. Rosencrantz determined he's going to do something that has never been done before, but obviously he can't. He's going to try not to meditate. He's going to try not to motivate anything. He's going to have a thought that's never been thought of. Okay? The quantum physicists are trying to do that. They're trying to set up experiments in what you call wave-particle association and then pretend that they didn't set up the experiment. That way they can step back from the experiment and observe the electronic associations of the wave particle. But they can't do it. They're caught in their own subjectivity. What they discover is that they're influencing the experiment with their mind, which is, of course, what they're doing, since the experiment is only contained in the retrospect of their previous dramatic demonstrations of experiential unreality. You got that? Good, because I don't have any idea what that is. But it sounds good. All right. No, it's an amazing thing. It's always like, will it be there if I don't look at it? Was it always there? And all these sort of things that go on in your mind. Here we go. First of all, what's been given you? The knowledge that you are a mind, in mind, purely mind, sinless forever, wholly unafraid because you were created out of love. Listen. Nor have you left your source, remaining as you were created. Now, listen carefully to this. This was given you as knowledge which you cannot lose. It was given as well to every living thing. Why? For by that knowledge only does it live. This is the statement that beingness is singular. That this I am that you're expressing is singular. That everything is only its own beingness. Try to get a hold of this. That's what this says. That's what creating is. You are as much God as you are God's Son in the sense of your own being wholeness. Okay, that cannot be. You can't lose that. That's what you are. Now what's happened? You have received all of this. Why? No one who walks the world but has received it. It is not this knowledge which you give, for that is what creation gives. And all of this cannot be learned. Actually, this is what we would call in space-time the ontological admission that all of us come from a common source. That we have a dharma, that we have a spirit of absolute reality that is singular in us, isn't it? Okay, that's not the knowledge you're going to offer. The knowledge you're going to offer is your limited perceptual association coming to that determination. Listen to this. All of this cannot be learned. You can't learn that. That's what you are. What then are you to learn to give today? Our lesson yesterday evoked a theme found early in the text. The theme found early in the text was, "Into his presence would I enter now." This is a statement of the transformation of the body that you're undergoing now. That was the lesson just before this. All right, now listen. All this cannot be learned. Our lesson yesterday evoked a theme found early in the text. Experience cannot be shared directly in the way that vision can. Okay? The revelation that the Father and the Son are one will comes in time to every mind. Listen, yet is that time determined by the mind itself, not taught. You can't teach your limited associations what you are. You determined within your own total idea about yourself, contained within the fabric of your reality, when that time was. You can't teach that. Why? It's already happened and you're gone from here. You're teaching only in the limited associations of your perceptual observations of yourself in order to forgive the previous grievances or what you call sequential time associations that keep you from seeing that you're actually whole. That's the relinquishment of your own self, isn't it? Now listen. Yet is that time determined by the mind itself, not taught. Now, the time is already set. It appears to be quite arbitrary. You're going along, you're going along, and why? You never can judge where you are in relationship with yourself. Don't you see? You cannot perceptually be the determiner of your own revelation. You think you can, and you keep trying to identify yourself in association with it, and that's what holds you in your space-time association, doesn't it? Your need to have the thought rather than be the thought. Your need to have the emotion rather than be the emotion. The need to justify in your thought forms the anger rather than being the anger, rather than being the love, rather than being whole unto yourself. It appears to be quite arbitrary, yet there is no step along the road that anyone takes but by chance. It's impossible. It has already been taken by him, although he has not yet embarked on it. It's already been taken by him, although he has not yet embarked on it. Because each moment that he embarks on it, it's already been taken. Why? Cause and effect are not apart. As soon as he apparently has the problem, the solution was always there. This is what I tried to say to you at the beginning of this lesson. Do you see? Each time you think the problem isn't solved, it's really solved. This is what's happened to you now. You've accumulated a lot of solutions that didn't work. You've rejected those from your mind, and you're just coming into a moment's whole association with yourself. Was this the time that you decided to wake up and become whole, remembering you're in heaven? Yeah. Well, can't it be? This says it can be some other time. No, it doesn't. No, it says it can only be this time. This time appears to be arbitrary to you because until the moment that you come into the wholeness of your own atonement and undergo the experience, you can't know that that was the time that you did it. You'll always be caught in this attempt to find it in your limited form associations. This will come to you. Let it sink in a little bit. You'll get it. Ready? It has already been taken by you, although he has not yet embarked on the journey. Ready? Lovely. For time but seems to go in one direction. We but undertake a journey that is over, yet it seems to have a future still unknown to us. Not possible. Okay? Anytime you justify your present condition based on previous experience, you have literally created the previous experience that did not exist until you justified it in the effect of you. Can anybody hear this? You call that preventive maintenance. An accident never happens until it happens. When it happens, you justify it by the previous associations. Isn't that astonishing? Everybody hear this? If you're flying in an airplane and you're flying in an airplane and suddenly it blows up, all right, they look back to the past association to determine what caused the accident. They discover it was bad maintenance, but the maintenance was okay until the plane blew up. Can you hear that?
Yeah.
There has to be a reason for everything happening, but until it happens, it's terrible, isn't it? You must justify by looking in, and you literally create a past association to justify your present condition. That's an astonishing thing to do. Isn't that amazing? You had to make the engine defective because the accident occurred. Otherwise, the engine was perfect. What made the engine defective? The crash. Actually, they're both going on at the same time, but that's hard for you to see. Really what's happening is every time you think of crash, you're crashing. What you've really done is create a statistical possibility. With a framework of linear time, if you create a statistical possibility, it has to come about. There's no such thing as statistic. Everything happens by the thought of it. Can you hear this at all? 1,000,000 to 1 chance is exactly the same as a 1 to 1 chance, because until it happens, it's not. When it happens, it becomes a 1 to 1. Well, there was no chance that that could have happened. I don't know, one single little bolt had to come loose, and then on and on and on. It never stops. Yet it did happen. Why? Because there was a thought that it could happen. And if there's a thought that it can happen, it will. All prophecies are self-fulfilling. That's why you need to die. You contain with you the elements of the certainty of your death. How are you going to keep from dying until you change your mind? You can't. You'll just keep on dying. All right? Yet it seems to have a future still unknown to us. Ready? Time is a trick, a sleight of hand, a vast illusion in which figures come and go as if by magic. They're coming all around you. Yet there is a plan behind appearances that does not change. The script is written. When experience will come to end your doubting has been set. Notice it says experience. Notice that it says that the doubting you have about yourself cannot be overcome except by the experience that you're undergoing now. And if you think it can, you're going to be around here a long time. Because you are the doubter. And the doubter cannot be real. What is it that he doubts? This is lesson 139, my favorite lesson in the Course. He doubts himself, but what is it that he's doubting? The doubter can't be any more real than what he doubts, really. That's why you have to undergo this experience in order to be real. The script is written. When experience will come to end your doubting has been set. For we but see the journey from the point at which it ended, looking back on it, imagining we make it once again, reviewing mentally what has gone before. This must be true. Why? Because the atonement or the repair of the apparent schism occurred at the moment that it happened. It was shoo shoo. All right? Now, you're actually looking from the creative essence of yourself back into the occurrence. Here's a problem you have with that. Since you think that your identity is emanating from the bottom of the schism, let's try this for you. Just see if you can get this. This will help you. From what you would call the black hole, from what you would call potentiality, the idea of the activation of the thought form, the earth, the moon, the female, Mother Earth. We all came from Mother Earth. I can see the evolutionary process evolving. My identity is to activate as I evolve from this source. But here's the hooker. Your source is not here. Your source is here. Remember what we said. Shoo shoo. Okay. This is why there's no gender in the Course. I should cover this for you guys that think you ought to be sisters. I don't know what the hell that means, sisters or female. Okay? There is no such thing as female, because female is potential and is activated by the force of reality. It becomes whole automatically. This has nothing to do with female and male as you engender it. Okay? But as Jesus would say, there's no such thing as potential. That creates what? time.
All right. Great. So, always completely out of here listening to this. Unbelievable. Like, what the heck am I... what can I share after this? There's nothing left here. See, now we're entering the real world. Nothing is left. It's like, no. Well, maybe a prayer could work. We have these beautiful prayers. I'm going to, say, pull one up. After the 220 in the, say, part 2 of the workbook, we have these beautiful lessons that are called prayer lessons. Let me see, where is it? Oh yeah, that's nice. Oh yes, what is the real world? Well, let's read that. That's so great. What is the real world? Here we are. What is the real world? The real world is a symbol like the rest of what perception offers. Yet it stands for what is opposite to what you made. You made, right? Your world is seen through eyes of fear and brings the witnesses of terror to your mind. The real world cannot be perceived except through eyes forgiveness blesses. So they see a world where terror is impossible and witnesses to fear cannot be found. I love this. It's so great. The real world holds a counterpart for each unhappy thought reflected in your world, a sure correction of the sights of fear and sounds of battle which your world contains. The real world shows a world seen differently through quiet eyes with a mind at peace. Nothing but rest is here. There are no cries of pain and sorrow heard, for nothing here remains outside forgiveness. The sights are gentle. Only happy sights and sounds can reach the mind that has forgiven itself. What need has such a mind for thoughts of attack, of death, of murder? What can it perceive surrounding it but safety, love and joy? What is there it would choose to be condemned, and what is there that it would judge against? The world it sees arises from a mind at peace within itself. No danger lurks in anything it sees, for it is kind, and only kindness does it look upon. The real world is the symbol that the dream of sin and guilt is over, and God's Son no longer sleeps. His waking eyes perceive the sure reflection of his Father's love, the certain promise that he is redeemed. The real world signifies the end of time, for its perception makes time purposeless. The Holy Spirit has no need of time when it has served his purpose. Now he waits but an instant more for God to take his final step. Then time has disappeared, taking perception with it as it goes and leaving but the truth to be itself. That instant is our goal, for it contains the memory of God. And as we look on a world forgiven, it is He who calls us and comes to take us home, reminding us of our identity, which our forgiveness has restored to us. So this is a day of stillness and of peace. Lesson 291. Christ's vision looks through me today. His sight shows me all things forgiven and at peace, and offers this same vision to the world. And I accept this vision in its name, both for myself and for the world as well. What loveliness we look upon today. What holiness we see surrounding us. And it is given us to recognize it. It is a holiness in which we share. It is the holiness of God Himself. This day, my mind is quiet to receive the thoughts you offer me. And I accept what comes from you instead of from myself. I do not know the way to you, but you are wholly certain. Father, lead your son along the quiet path that ends in you. Father, lead your Son along the quiet path that leads in you. Let my forgiveness be complete, and let the memory of you return to me. Amen. This is a day of stillness and of peace. So this is a day of stillness and of peace. And of course you already had recognized that. So that's so lovely. So thank you so much for joining today in this. I'm going to play a song and play some music just to stay in this beautiful quiet space, you could say, and say enter deeply into the loveliness where it will bring you. So thank you so much, and I hope to see you soon. Thank you. Thank you so much.